don't know how true that is. I don't really know if I can make this shot. Okay, I think I need to go the other way. I wasted like a whole clip. Hey everybody, I'm here and welcome back to Receiver 2. Let's see if we can make some positive progress. Otherwise known as, am I gonna end up dying in a stupid way, most likely to a drone? Also, I apologize if you can hear a wonderful wheezing sound. That is me. The wonderful lungs that I have on me are doing things that can only be described as obnoxious. Okay, where are we? We're level 2. Okay. Gosh, darn it. Alright, I just like to get that set up. It was also suggested to me that I point out in my titles that I use an eye tracker, and I really liked that idea. I just saw the comment in an email, so I didn't even see the username of the person who said it. Otherwise, I would totally give them credit. Because it's a good idea. Because that's one of the things that I believe is a draw to my channel. I think that eye trackers are really cool. And I think that that's part of the reason why people who are watching my channel are watching my channel. I'm not a comedic genius as much as I wish I was. Nor am I the most engaging when it comes to banter, which I also wish I was, because, man, there's some people who can banter like nobody's business. My life just does not have as many interesting stories as others. It is a gun. I guess there's a tape there.
The threat studied our weaknesses in detail and knows exactly where to place its levers and pry our minds apart. They use social media to divide us and control us while giving us the illusion of community. They grant power and responsibility to the weakest of us while giving us the illusion of meritocracy. We have been coasting through existence with our eyes closed.
This is too fucking
now
real.
Is our last chance to awaken.
Like, that's way too fucking real. Also, how am I ever going to get this gun, man? It is in a corner and it is gonna see me. I think I turned back. That is the nightmare room. Actually, I guess I can go up. I can go back up. Yeah, I can avoid it in this way. But yeah, meritocracy, which, if you're not familiar with the term, is basically think of just like democracy is a form of ruling that has to do with. Actually, I don't know the root word. My guess would be demographics, but basically, democracy is, you know, the rule of many. In our case, via representation. It's gotta be up. It's not over here, is it? But meritocracy is basically those with merit have the power. Which means if you were to do well.
Humans are curious creatures, always hungry
That's
for
annoying,
information.
but good.
The threat has found a way to turn this strength into a fatal weakness. They force feed us from a fire hose of narratives designed to agitate and demoralize us, leaving our minds exhausted and crowding out our own thoughts. They divide the world into false dichotomies and demand we choose between obvious lies. To become a receiver, you must reject this choice.
What? Okay, one sec. What year was this made? No, seriously, I want to know what year this was made. It was recent, but I mean, that's so accurate. It's painfully accurate. I am making sure that angle cannot get me shot. I don't know why the screen went dark there.
One tool used by the threat is called the anti-pattern. The threat cultivates an atmosphere of terror and anxiety around trivial risks, providing a suitable environment for them to inject fixes for these non-problems. Invariably, the actual purpose of these solutions is to create new issues that were worse than the initial situation. By associating the search for solutions with new problems, the mind becomes locked in a hopeless state with no clear path forward. We have developed a mind detect for people trapped in this anti-pattern. Like a hall of mirrors, this construct is based on illusions and is easily shattered. Imagine that you have changed your mind about something you would never doubt. Act like you believe this new truth for an hour, a day, a week. Do things make more sense? This is the feeling of breaking free.
If only it were that easy. Because it's not. It is very interesting how on point this game seems to be, even though it had to be being developed more than just recently, would be how I would phrase it. There's an achievement for shooting the motion sensor. Yep.
Mind Tech is a collection of techniques that form a system for strengthening and then honing your natural capability to combat the threat. In its most basic form, it is a sequence of thoughts, feelings, and ideas that, when executed in proper order, result in protection of your mind from outside attacks. Ultimately, with enough practice, Mind Tech can become a weapon that can strike back at the threat.
Need to figure out where this gun is. That's a drone. F that noise. Yeah, it didn't work. I think the big thing about modern day, what's the right phrase of putting it? What's the right way? I think the problem people have today isn't so much, how do I put it? I really don't like how close this gets. That has to be a drone. So the big issue with today is the internet. I mean, obviously, misinformation and lies have been around forever. Although there's a very interesting movie, The Invention of Lying, that I haven't personally watched, but I've heard is rather entertaining. Oh, this is gonna be tough. Nice.
We brush our teeth twice a day, but we don't do anything to clean our minds. Are our teeth more important than our minds? Unless you take active measures to resist it, the threat will continue tainting and twisting your mind to suit its purpose. To survive the mind kill, you must intentionally train your focus, your compassion, your motivation, or it will atrophy and die.
Alright, So, as I was trying to say, but got interrupted by focus, misinformation has been around forever. Lying has been a thing. Deceiving has been a thing. It's nothing new, especially in the short term. Even more so true in the long term. So, why do we see this problem now? There is an argument, of course, that... Is the safety on? Yes, it is. I cannot toggle the safety. I only have 5 bullets. Oh, the safety wasn't on. I do not like where we have manifested. So yeah, misinformation has been around forever, but the internet has given it new life. Now, obviously, there tends to be this idea, this feeling, this statement that things are always getting worse, not because they actually are getting worse, but because you're noticing them. You're noticing that things are changing or are different. And I think there is definitely some truth to that statement. I think people slowly become more worldly as they get older. I think that's just a natural process. But also, on top of getting worldly, people also become more stuck in their ways. So there's sort of a dichotomy here. A dichotomy that does not work in our favor necessarily. It's, at least in my opinion, no secret that as we get older, our brains become less plastic. So when you're younger, your brain is much more willing to change. Much more willing to change. That was very dangerous. I exposed myself to a stairwell on both sides. Okay. Here. So your brain is much more plastic, or malleable could be the other word to use there. Much more malleable when you are younger. And that is for multiple reasons, but mostly because as a child you need to learn. Part of our evolution as a species involved having to learn. A lot of animals have what we call, or what we describe as instinct. And humans are not devoid of instinct, but we don't have nearly as much. If you consider, like, an insect, insects function almost entirely on instinct. Almost entirely. And I'm not like a PhD or anything saying this, so I very well could be wrong, but this is my perception as I've learned it. And a lot of other animals also function very much on instinct. The animals that can function on not instinct are ones who learn, who have that ability to observe situations, draw conclusions, and adapt their behavior to something more beneficial to themselves. And obviously, the more able you are to learn, the more that helps you as an individual, and potentially as a species. We can definitely say that in the grand scheme of things, humans are a very weak species. We can do some very interesting things, do not get me wrong. It is believed that the big advantage that humans had in the world is our ability to distance run. We can outrun anything, or just about anything, in the world. And that's not to say in a short distance, though there are certainly some people, looking at you, Usain Bolt, who in fact can outrun some animals in the short distance. But many animals can outrun us in the short distance, but cannot cope with a long distance race. That gives us a very distinct advantage in some places and in some cases. But short of that, right, we don't really have much that we call... I hate that there are two drones. That we call our area of expertise. Except for, once again, beyond physical abilities, our mental abilities. Our mental abilities far exceed the other species on this planet. And that is, of course, a big strength. It has allowed us to develop society as well as technology and other advancements that other animals could not hope to replicate. And that is because we can learn. I do not know enough about the theory of why we can learn. What exactly caused it. Though it is, at least to my understanding, hypothesized that the main reason we can learn is because we started eating meat. Don't know how true that is. I don't even know if I can make this shot. Okay, I think I need to go the other way. I wasted like a whole clip. I suppose I could get this. That is entirely my bad. Alright, if I had just done that to begin with, this would have been better. But I was too busy trying to monologue. So yeah, because we can learn, we have a distinct advantage. But part of that learning is also not necessary after a certain point. So when you are born, you have a soft skull. And that doesn't explicitly have to do with learning, but it kind of does. It is tangentially related. You have a soft skull because there's a limitation as to the size of a brain that can be born. And if you are wondering why, the answer is the pelvis. Your head got to fit through a pelvis, which means there's an upper limit. Which is, you know, unfortunate, but it means that that is something we have to deal with as a species. It's just, it must be dealt with. And the solution to that was exactly what it sounds like. instead of being born with a fully developed brain, instead of that, and say knowing language from the get-go, or having good motor functions from the get-go, instead you have to learn those things, and in order to allow for that, to adapt.
While it's tempting to imagine that the Colt 1911 emerged only formed from Browning's head like the goddess Athena, in fact, it took more than a decade of iteration. The first mass-produced model, the Colt 1900, looks like a 5-year-old's crayon drawing of a 1911. It fired 38 caliber rounds and had a bizarre safety system. You could push the rear sights down to block the firing pin, and presumably block yourself from ever retaining zero. Even so, the combination of the bolt and barrel shroud into a single slide was brilliant and set the standard for all modern
I
pistols.
didn't realize it was so low to the ground.
It was designed to compete with the broom-handle Mauser, now better known as Han Solo's blaster in Star Wars, and the unfortunately named Mannlicher 1896. Even in its early stage, the Colt 1900 compared well enough to its rivals that the U.S. Army started distributing it to officers and cavalry for field trials. The god of war was among us, and we barely knew it yet.
So yeah, the trade-offs of being smart are that we have to deal with not being smart right away. Okay, have it your way. So yeah, because we have to learn those things, our brain becomes, our brains, I shouldn't say adapted because that's not actually true, or at least that's not accurate, because it didn't adapt. It was our brains being plastic early in our lives was advantageous for us as a species, and caused so if your brain was plastic earlier in life, oh, so yeah, if your brain was more plastic earlier in life, when you were growing up, you learned more. You were able to view situations and learn better from them than if your brain was not plastic. And I know plastic is a weird word here because generally plastic isn't something we perceive as malleable. But in this situation, that is in fact how it is defined. But because you could learn better is effectively what it became. You were more likely to survive, pass on your genes, and there's another drone. And have offspring, survive longer, pass on your genes. More likely to do that if you don't die, turns out. So, that is... It's a drone. It is a drone. So that's how humans evolved. It was advantageous to have a plastic brain. And so that's what stuck. Those children survived more because they learned. Which is good. Because having a plastic brain allowing you to survive is a positive. Such a weird thing to line up. Hell yeah. Alright, we're back to a reasonable number of bullets. So, to get back to where all this started. I would really like for this gun to stop being shitty. Why? Fucking finally, Jesus. I'm not sure what that's all about, to be honest. So yeah, plastic brain means that you can learn, but you don't need to learn forever. So not every brain... So your brain being plastic later in life didn't give you an advantage. Especially if, for example, you already had kids. As long as... The thing about survival of the fittest, or evolution, and I suppose Darwin Awards, if that's how you think about it, is if you've already had kids, it doesn't matter. If what gets you killed happens after you have kids, it doesn't matter. The idea of survival of the fittest is, you know, what it sounds, the most fit people, here not meaning buff or athletic, are the ones who survive. Though specifically, or more accurately, it's those who are more fit to survive are more likely to reproduce. Because reproduction is what's important in evolution. And that's why you can have insects or other life cycles that are incredibly short. Like mayflies and such. Those are very short-lived creatures, but it doesn't matter if one could live to be infinity years old. I mean, there would be advantages of that, to be fair. There would be. But... Oh my gosh, why are these balloons so out of sync? Because I'm not standing. Oh my god. I fucking hate this gun, dude. I really hate this gun. To get back to what I was distracted from, once you survive long enough to reproduce, your job is done. In most cases. Now, there is once again another exception to this in that if you are a species that can reproduce multiple times, things that keep you alive long enough to reproduce multiple times are advantageous to you. As you might expect. I don't think this will randomly decide to start tasing, but the point of it all is that if it gets you to the point where you can reproduce, have kids, pass on your genes, then you were fit enough, right? And those genes will live another day. That's the simple version, with a little bit of extra complexity heaped on for fun. I'm gonna get shot through the floor and I'm gonna hate it. Okay, ceiling turret on the right, drone on the left. I'm just glad that worked. Alright. So yes, a little bit extra complexity heaped in on that, but hopefully you understand the point. So, back to plasticity. So obviously... Oh, that was a good cough. I'm glad I have a mute button now. So yeah, ultimately... I shot its bullet holder. It still sees me, doesn't it? And I would like you to stop, please. Ooh. Alright. Well, I didn't get any particularly extra bullets, but I did get some extra bullets. I've only found one tape. Okay, here, tape. Alright, sorry, we're under a little bit of pressure here. My banter has cut down. I need to see a blue light before I move. So the extra survivability of a plastic brain helped us survive. But the reason why that is relevant to where this entire discussion initially started was that our brains are plastic. And that plasticity gives us the ability to learn and absorb things and change. But our brains become less plastic over time. Okay. Why is my gun... I hate that I did this, but I need a cleaner shot. Now for my own sanity. Right, so our brains being plastic going away as we get older means that we don't like to change opinions after a certain age. It's just kind of one of those things that happens to people. I just didn't want that anywhere near me.
Initiates are
That's tape
sometimes
number
confused
2.
by our reliance on analog cassette tapes in this time of MP3 players and online streaming. We use cassettes because the threat controls the internet and knows everything you do on your computer. If you try to digitize a receiver tape, the threat will target you for destruction and focus its full power. By directly implanting thoughts and dreams, they can steer your subconscious, ultimately destroying your mind. We must plan for the eventuality that we are not able to fully awaken a receiver and are unable to prevent the mind kill. These are the most important preparations. Before the mind kill, one must take a complete inventory of their own being to know every aspect of their own mind and body. Ideas have mass and shape, which can be built into walls. Ideas have a flow, which can carve out channels. Once we have built this multifaceted geography, we can make a map of the mind. In this state, the mind can safely manage new experiences and retain a sense of self in even the most adverse circumstances. If you find yourself conscious during the mind kill event, find the nearest safe cell. Listen to the clear tape and perform your min thought drills. If you feel yourself drifting, initiate your core mind tech. If your preparations have been successful, your first actions after the mind kill should be to check your firearm and make it ready, making note of your ammunition. The threat will be targeting you with their kill drones. After that, you must find tapes and ammunition to stay alive and to continue your training to reach an awakened state.
We can do this. We can do this. That gun is so hard to get to, Jesus.
Receiver transmissions have indicated that the post-mind kill environment is even more dangerous than one might expect, because it feels like even luck is working against us.
Oh my gosh, we did it.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Even our weapons are more likely to malfunction or fire unintentionally. It is absolutely vital to train your malfunction drills and practice the rules of
fucking know it
until they become second nature.
Oh, this is our first time ranking up to Liminal. First time ranking up to Liminal, guys. Your mind's eye sharpens. Alright. I do want to finish my thought before I go too much further, right? So, to to finish my thought, when your brain is plastic, you're more willing to accept things, and as you get older, you're less likely to accept things, and that isn't always like the rule. Like, you can still be forward thinking as you get older, and you can still change opinions when you get older. It's just harder. You can bake into your brain the ability to change your mind and learn things. Like, that sort of, like, you can have different mindsets, and it's really, and we don't understand enough about the brain to know exactly how all of it works, or at least I don't. I suppose there could be a research lab somewhere where a bunch of people know a whole bunch more than I do, and they just haven't published it, or I haven't read it, or there's something actually out there already, but it's been manipulated by headlines to sound weird. But what it comes down to is the opinions that you have, the ideas that you have, your methods of thinking do get a lot harder to change as you get older. And with the age of the internet, that misinformation that's being provided by the internet, you have to learn to defend against it. And people who haven't grown up with the internet or aren't as familiar with the internet, or quite honestly, even if they grew up with the internet but haven't been taught good critical thinking or absorbed ideas that allow them to think through what might be being presented to them, which, to be fair, a lot of the times, even when misinformation did exist, it didn't exist on the scale that is the internet. Any chuckle fuck in the world can put up a blog. Like the amount of information there is massive, and to filter through it all and find the truth is difficult. The saying, a lie travels around the earth before the truth has time to put its pants on, or whatever that line is pretty darn accurate. Misinformation travels fast, and a lot of the time because it's exaggerated or because it's what people want to read. And so we have to train ourselves and our children, and try on our parents to get them to think about those things. And that's why these tapes, these topics that keep coming up in this game are so on point, at least in today's day and age. Maybe I'm coming back to this episode, or my kids or my nieces are watching this video, and they get to say confidently that everything is better. I would really hope for that to be the case. But if it's not in 50 years or 20 years or whenever that you're watching this, and things are still pretty bad in terms of misinformation on the internet, then that's why these tapes seem so on point when it comes to misinformation and staying alert. Which is why it's so disconcerting, because they are so accurate. But either way, I'm going to stop rambling, because I'm pretty sure at least a half an hour of this episode has just been me blabbing. And I'm just happy. I'm happy. We reached a new rank. We finally did it. Took a while. But raise hands above head. We're about to go down the next dive of the roller coaster. I do click anywhere to continue here, both to get rid of that stupid spinning sound, and also because I'm curious how many tapes we're going to need, and so I can exit safely. We need 4 tapes again. Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you next time. But until then, keep your gears turning.